Alright guys, on this video I'm going to talk about a chemistry topic. So this is a topic that we call stoichiometry. And stoichiometry, this is, if you want to give it a definition, it's going to be the relationship of the moles that you're going to have in your reactants to your product. So how much reactant you need to produce X amount of product. And we're going to call this stoichiometry. But let's get into a simpler example and talk about something that we might be familiar with, which is recipes. Okay, especially right now that we are under quarantine, so we have to be cooking more often than we used to cook before, right? So this is a common recipe, or I just came up with a recipe. I actually took this recipe from PowerPoint. Okay, I don't really think this is how you make pancakes, but we're gonna work with this recipe over here. Okay, and the recipe says that I need 1 cup of flour, 2 eggs, and half a teaspoon of baking powder to make 5 pancakes. So this is the recipe, and those numbers are not gonna change. Okay, so there's no such thing as instead of having, for example, 1 cup of flour, if I have 2 cups of flour, these numbers over here are not gonna make five pancakes. Okay, so this is just a recipe, and this is, grandma's recipe. So this has to stay like that. You're not gonna change those numbers ever. Okay, you're not gonna change those numbers ever to start with. Okay, and now this is just a recipe. So we don't really, let's say, go to Walmart or go to Albertsons and buy exactly 1 cup of flour, or we don't go and buy exactly 2 eggs, right? We're sold these items by most of the times higher proportions than what the recipe says. Okay, so what stoichiometry is going to do is ask questions like the following question. So I have this recipe. What if I have 3 cups of flour? Let's say I went to Walmart and the bag of flour it had the content of 3 cups. So I have 3 cups of flour. How many pancakes can I make with 3 cups of flour, assuming I have enough of everything else? Okay, so the relationship that we have in here is that 1 cup of flour is enough to make 5 pancakes. So that is the relationship of flour to pancakes, right? 1 to 5. So if I have 3 cups of flour, can you see that it makes sense that the highest amount of pancakes that I'm going to make is 15 pancakes? Why is this? Because this number over here triples, so this number over here has to triple. And it makes sense, right? If you want to make 15 pancakes, that's 3 times what the recipe can make. That means you need 3 times the ingredients or the reactants if there was a chemical reaction. Okay, so 3 cups of flour make 15 pancakes. So this is all about ratios that we're going to be talking about in here. Okay, now let's say that I don't have 3 cups of flour, right? I go to Walmart or whatever I have left in the pot is going to be. I'm just going to come up with a number 8x. Okay, so I have 8x on my um, in a Tupperware, right? So with 8 eggs, how many pancakes can I make out of the same recipe? Can you see that I'm not changing any of the given numbers? Okay, those numbers are going to stay in there. So I'm just trying to see how many how many pancakes can I make with 8 eggs? Okay, so let's analyze the ratios. So the ratio of eggs to pancakes is 2 to 5. Right, so for every 2 eggs, assuming I have everything enough of everything else, for every 2 eggs, I can make 5 pancakes. Okay, so what is the relationship between this number 2 and this number 8? So did it double? Did it triple? So you're gonna see that it increased by a factor of 4, or it multiplied times 4, right? So 2 times 4 is gonna give me 8. So this is a relationship of a factor of 4. That means that this number has to also increase by a factor of 4. Okay, so you will see, I'm going to show you how to do the calculations, right? But over here, you should see that if you have 4 times the x that you need from the recipe, that means that you're going to make 4 times more pancakes than what the recipe says. right? 5 times 4, that's 20, because 2 times 4, that's the number that I have, right? 8, and 5 times 4 is 20. Okay, so everything is increasing in proportion, okay? So what if instead of having a 8x, let's say, mm, I don't really want to make 5 pancakes. I want to make 10 pancakes because I want to eat 10 pancakes, right? For some reason. So I want to have 10 pancakes. How many cups of flour am I going to need? Right? How many cups of flour do I need so that if I follow this recipe, I'm gonna make 10 pancakes? Okay. So the relationship between flour and pancakes, again, that's a 1 to 5. So for every one cup of flour, I'm gonna make 5 pancakes. Okay, so if I want to make 10 pancakes, what is the relationship between this 5 over here and the 10? So it looks like it double, right? Multiply times 2. So that means that this number over here has to multiply times 2. So it means I need 2 cups of flour. 2 cups of flour to make 10 pancakes. Okay. Now, how do we do the actual math? How are we going to be doing the math? Okay. So I'm going to come up with another crazy number over here. So these are whole numbers, so it is even, or it is simple to think about it that way. But let's say, for example, I want to make 8 pancakes. So I want to make 8 pancakes. Okay, how much flour, how many eggs, and how much baking powder am I gonna need to make 8 pancakes, right? So I'm trying to scale up the recipe and the situation. Okay, so what are we going to do? This is the given number from the problem, right? I have my recipe. This is never going to change. This is the number that's going to change. It might be 8 pancakes. It might be, I don't know, 2 teaspoons of baking powder. It might be 7 eggs. It may also be 4 cups of flour, right? We don't know. So there's always a given number on the problem. And let's say that the problem says, I have this recipe and I'm following all of these times, and I want to make 8 pancakes. Right? How much of all the ingredients do I need to make 8 pancakes? So let's make some relationships over here. Okay, so 8 pancakes, this is a given number. 8 pancakes. Okay, and I'm gonna do a dimensional analysis to do this. Okay, so I'm going to convert pancakes to every single ingredient that I have in here. Okay, so from pancakes, let's calculate the flour first. So we're talking about flour, right? So if I want to convert pancakes to flour, right, going this way, that means that if I'm doing dimensional analysis, that pancakes have to go on the bottom so that I can cancel out pancake later, right? And flour is going to go on the top. Okay, so this is just a regular dimensional analysis. We can take the flour as the units, X, the baking powder, or the pancakes as the units. Okay, so what are the numbers that I'm going to place in this dimensional analysis in here? These numbers are always going to be the ratios, or the big numbers, the stoichiometrical coefficients, we call those. Okay, so those are the numbers that you're going to place into this second step of the dimensional analysis. Okay, so let's find out what the numbers are for flour and pancakes. I know the ratio is a 1 to 5. 1 has to go with the flour, 1 goes in here with the flour, and 5 goes with the pancakes. Okay, so if you do this operation, you cancel out the units, pancakes and pancakes cancel out. All you have left is going to be flour. So this is going to tell you how many cups of flour, right? Cups of flour you're going to need. So what do you have to do? You have to do the multiplication 8 times 1, and then you divide by the bottom one, which is 5. So you do this multiplication of 8 times 1, and then you divide by 5. This is going to tell you how many cups of flour you're going to need to make 8 pancakes. So if you multiply 8 times 1, that's 8, and if you divide it by 5, the result should be 1.6 cups of flour. Okay, so to make 8 pancakes, I am going to need 1.6 cups of flour. Okay, this is following the exact same recipe. Okay, so now let's see if we can find how many eggs I'm going to need for this to make 8 pancakes. So again, 8 pancakes. But this time, instead of dealing with flour, now we're going to be dealing with eggs. So we're converting pancakes to eggs, right? From pancakes to eggs. Let's see how many eggs I'm going to need in this to make 8 pancakes, right? So pancakes go on bottom, pancakes, and eggs go on top because we are converting to eggs. So what are the numbers that I'm going to place in here? So those are going to be the numbers that come in the recipe. Okay, right now the numbers are going to be 5 and 2. Those are the numbers, the ratio between pancakes and eggs, because we're doing that conversion from pancakes to eggs. Okay, so pancakes, it says it's 5 pancakes, and I need 2 eggs to make 5 pancakes. That's the ratio. Okay, so at this point, we can see that pancakes and pancakes cancel out, and the result is going to be eggs. Now the same thing, you're gonna multiply the numbers in the top. So you multiply 8 times 2, and then you divide by 5, excuse me. So 8 times 2, that's 16, and 16 divided by 5, that should be 3.2. So it means that you need 3.2x. 3.2x. Just write my number of x in here. 3.2. Those are the number of eggs that I need. Eggs. And 1.6, it was a cup of flour. Okay. Now we still need to find how many teaspoons of baking powder I'm going to use. Okay. So we're going to do the same thing. We're trying to convert pancakes, but this time we're converting the pancakes to baking powder. So 8 pancakes is the number that I want to make. Okay, and I'm converting these pancakes to baking powder, right? Teaspoons of baking powder. So what are the numbers that I'm going to place into this dimensional analysis? The stoichiometric coefficients of pancakes and baking powder, which is 5 and 1/2. So 5 goes into pancakes and 1/2 goes into teaspoons of baking powder. Now to make it a little bit simpler, I'm going to convert that 1/2 into its decimal equivalent, which is 0.5. 0.5, 1/2. This is because it's easier to deal with decimals on this situation. So I'm going to put 0.5. Don't be afraid of converting fractions into decimals on this situations. Okay. So let's do the math. So that's going to be 8 times 5 times 0.5. Obviously, pancakes and pancakes cancel out, and the resulting is going to be teaspoons of baking powder. Okay, so pancakes cancel. Let's go ahead and do the multiplication. So 8 times 0.5, that's the numbers in the top, divided by 5, and the result is going to be 0.8 teaspoons of baking powder. Okay, so I need 0.8 teaspoons of baking powder. Okay, so this is what I need to make 8 pancakes. What you guys are doing right now, we call this mol-to-mol conversions. So this is what we're doing right now. But of course, we're not using chemicals. We are using a recipe. Okay, and it works any different, I mean, in any direction that you want, right? Right now I started with 8 pancakes and I try to find every other number. So you can also start with x and you can find every other number the same way. Okay, so what I found it's useful is don't worry about this arrow over here, right? Because it confuses people into, does it matter if it's going forward or backward? It doesn't really matter, right? So just think about it as if it's not there. Think about it as if it's another plus sign, if it helps you, right? All of these guys over here are the same. It doesn't matter if they're reactants or products right now, okay? So all of those items are the same, and all we worry about right now is going to be the ratios, right? So 1, 2, 0.5, and 5. Those are the ratios of all of those chemicals. I'm going to put another video where I'm going to talk about another example it takes it a little bit forward, another step forward. Okay, so we're going to be dealing with chemicals and gram to gram conversions. This is mol to mols conversions. Okay, I'm going to show you an example also on the next video.